to Take the Helm podcast, where we will share stories, experiences, data, and best practices with industry leaders, friends, and dealers. From market conditions to insights, leadership development to tough conversations, take the helm.
Hey, good day, everybody. John Green here with Lead Helm. And as usual with podcasts, you know I am one thing, and that is I am excited all the time about these things. And there's always a couple reasons for the excitement, right? One is every time we do one of these, we get to share some information. We usually learn some things, and we're really talking about how do we deliver a great customer experience and how do we capitalize on the opportunity that is the digital doorway. And we're going to talk some more about that stuff today. So how do we sell more vehicles and how do we do it in a way that consumers love? Great topic. And additional excitement, guests today, I have Aaron Barney. Most of you have seen Aaron before. Aaron, with your nice holiday background, how are you?
Hello. Good morning.
Aaron, always ready to roll. This will be a good one. And then the other guest, which is actually really great, from Rollick, VP of Dealer Development, Chris Yeloushan. So Chris, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And where are you? You're in Florida.
I'm in Central Florida, yes, sir. Beautiful, sunny Florida.
And Aaron is also in sunny Florida.
Yep, down here in sunny Fort Myers. Good weather lately, right, Chris?
Oh, beautiful Chamber of Commerce weather, Aaron, always, right?
Yeah, that's right.
You guys are winning that one. I'm sitting in cold, rainy Greenville, South Carolina this morning, but that's all right. It feels like the season outside.
This is one of those times, right, Chris, where we really work through those storms, that heat, and we get to really bear all the fruit here, at least for the next 3 or 4 months, I'd say. So it's good. It's been good.
Yeah. I'm at our hunting property up in Ocala National Forest, so I'm here riding side by sides all weekend, the next few weeks. So it's going to be really fun to relax and unwind a little bit.
That's awesome. Good to hear that.
It's always good to get out there and use the product that we help people sell. Always good to do that. Chris, I'm going to give you an opportunity here in a minute, but essentially, Rollick is a technology and resource of all different levels and iterations in power sports, marine, RV, equipment, and so forth. So a significant player there. We share, Rollick and Lead Helm, a little bit of the same space, right? We operate in some of those same verticals, but I think we have the same objectives in this piece of it, right? How do we continue to help educate dealers and help deliver solutions, whether it's technology or training, any number of types of resources that, again, help the manufacturer, help the dealer, and help the consumer to have a better experience in buying and in transactions that start online and eventually end up in a dealership. And if we do that really, really well, everybody gets to win.
That's right?
And I think that's a big piece of it. So we've got leads that we've got to capture. We've got to effectively nurture and engage with those leads. And again, how can we continue to help the dealers, and particularly the audience and the listeners today, primarily dealers and dealer personnel? How can we do that? So last we saw you, Chris, was at NPDA. You've been other places since. So just give us an update on how you're doing. How's it been going? You guys have been busy this year. I know that. And then we're going to roll into some data after that. But have a little update.
Yeah. It's been show season, right? NPDA, as soon as we leave that, we head right to RVDA in Las Vegas. So they're a lot helping our RV dealers. And then 2 weeks after that, we hit the MRAA show in Orlando. So been a lot of the show season. Out there trying to help our dealers and our OEMs. Our goal at Rollick is always to help find, win, and keep customers. That's kind of our mantra, leveraging the technology and marketing solutions to achieve those goals for our dealers.
Yeah, I mean, it's really amazing what's out there, right? Even as somebody that is a provider, if you will, a resource inside of these different spaces. It's always amazing to go to some of these shows, right? Because sometimes we get in our own little boxes and we're doing our own thing and we got our blinders on a little bit and we don't really look sometimes enough at what else is happening. So NPDA was not a huge show, but even to go around there and talk about some of the other vendors that are there and what's happening, right? It is very dynamic. It is changing very quickly right now. And the human side of the business is still important, but we see technology like everywhere right now is changing so fast, almost to the point where the consumer is not quite adopting it as quickly as it's evolving. But we'll talk a little bit about that as we dive in. So I think the data that you're going to go through is really exciting, right? And I think it really speaks to the necessity to meet consumers where they are at any point in time, right? We almost need to be omnipresent as retailers today, regardless of what we're retailing, because consumers want to engage with us at various times on various platforms at their convenience. And the burden is on us to react and respond in those spaces as best we can and as close as we can to real time. So technology, human pieces, capitalize on this digital opportunity. So maybe tell us a little bit, Chris, about the study and the data.
John, that's great lead into the study. So Rollick conducted what we call the future of buying study, right? We went out because we do so much. We work with about 130 plus OEMs on all three segments: RV, power sports, and marine. We touch about 1 million leads annually, and we do it through about 4,000 connected dealers through our solutions, right? So we did is we wanted to really, again, like you guys always do, educate. How do we collaborate and educate with the industry? So we went out to 27,000 prospects and owners, not just prospects, but owners, to capture, what their expectations are for the OEM, for the dealer, and how they're changing, right? Where do they want to engage? And you mentioned it very good, John, that it's like customers want to engage everywhere. They might be on their mobile phone. They might be walking in your store. There's so many different ways to engage. And this data proves of what their expectations are in detail. We went through pretty deep questions and responses to show where these consumers are today and what they expect for their dealer.
And did anything on this particular one, right, where we're looking at how often right? So I think there's things, those are big advertising terms back in, and it's still relevant. You talk about frequency and recency of communication, right? So frequency is how often you get in touch. And recency is when the last time you communicated. And this obviously starts with the initial response. But what's interesting on this particular one is some of the buying cycle. The duration of that buying cycle is very different depending on the segment, right? Inside of marine, it's typically a much longer buying cycle than it is inside of power sports. And the consumer expectation of ongoing engagement, regardless of when they make that purchase, they want the dealer to stay in touch until they're ready to buy. And that could be a long time.
Yeah, we're seeing, depending on the segment, power sports, most of the consumers, 49%, John, want to buy within 30 days, right? Transaction's a smaller dollar amount, so 49% want to purchase. And you can see here the expectations, once the lead is put in, they want to call, text, and email right away. They want to know that they're special, right? How do we leverage the technology, let the customer know they're there? They might have already went on your website at the time of submitting a lead and filled out a finance application. We're seeing that all the time. So how do we engage with them in all three touch points and continue to follow up? On average, we're seeing it takes 16 or so touch points before they make a purchase. That's a lot, right? So how do we leverage our technology and our solutions together to meet that customer where they are?
I think, Aaron, you chime in on this, right? With all the different case studies that we've done and dealer discussions, if it's average of 17 touch points, what do you think the average power sports or Harley dealer, where do you think they sit on number of touch points on a digital lead right now?
Oh, I'd say it's in there, if not greater. I think that, it's for sure 30 days, and it's meeting the customer where they're at. And, it's definitely, somewhere between 15 and 30 touch points and it depends on the situation, but really making sure, like you said, Chris, that's what we see. It really is truly about meeting the customer where they're at and nurturing a relationship. We're not selling product yet. And I think you said a key word. It is about, customer expectations, and so we're seeing kind of that same thing where it really takes, it takes the time to nurture a relationship. Sometimes it's only a couple days, but a lot of cases, we're 30 days in still building a relationship as they continue to shop.
Yeah, there's so much product discovery, right? I mean, we're getting a lot of new people entering the market. They have a lot of questions. Our email nurture is picking up consumers every day. Hey, I want to know the tow capacity. I want to know the hauling capacity. I want to know the horsepower. I want to know, all this different specs. They want to know that. And they're expecting the dealer to either call, text, or email them these details immediately. Like they want to know right away. So the faster we can get to them and share and answer their questions, the better likely we're to convert that customer faster and a more quality overall customer experience.
Right.
I think, guys, what's interesting about this, unfortunately, the average dealer is not executing 15, 17, 20 touch points, right? To me, this is one of the biggest opportunities as a dealer, right? Is this nurture phase, right? We got to get to the lead first, right? We want to get there fast. And then where we are talking about right now is we need to stay there a long time. And unfortunately, dealers, either because of staffing or disinterest or lack of tracking, proper technology, any myriad of reasons, busy, the swirl's real, I understand that. We leave that customer before that customer wants to be left. And so they either go somewhere else to a competitor, or the worst thing is they exit the buying cycle and we don't earn them into this community of users, riders, participants. And that's the one that's most troubling. If somebody raises their hand and says, I'm interested in what you have, right? We can't forsake them and just leave them there, because they will go find somewhere else, and maybe even another industry, someplace to spend their money.
Yeah, John, that's a great point. I know right now Rollick is working with BRP and the Dealer Solutions. We have 1,000 plus BRP dealers now that we're nurturing leads coming in from the dealer websites through BRP. Which is great now, because we're able to help connect that customer. We send a cadence of 6 emails directly to those customers to answer those questions, to get them engaged. We show the incentives, we show images. It's all tied to keeping that customer nurturing. The dealerships are so busy now. A lot of the dealers are calling and texting. They're doing a lot of calling and texting back and forth. A lot of these customers go dark, right? They're working, but they see an email pop in. They reply to the email and say, hey, I just went on your finance app. Or I have questions about the unit. So we're seeing that all day long. If we can nurture them with a back-end email nurture piece and rely on the dealer to call, text, it just helps the overall experience. You're seeing right here on this chart, consumers are opening emails even a year after they put a lead in. They're still I see this all the time. A year later, they're replying to emails saying, hey, I'm still interested. Give me a call back. So this is huge, how we can use all 3 touch points as a dealership to achieve this.
Yeah, Chris, just quick jump in there real quick, John. We see the same thing, where, as you know, we'll be doing follow-up on behalf of a dealer, and we're calling and texting, and one of those texts 3 weeks later, and maybe we don't hear back, and we hear back from that customer, a month and a half later. So what you're saying is so important, because it's who gets there first and who stays there the longest. And that's where I think it is, like we talked about earlier on, how we help dealers together with comprehensive strategies to nurture, but that are efficient. Because you said it, dealers are really busy. It's there's only so many resources in the dealership. So when we start saying, hey, you need to, we see dealers, right, John? Some are getting 400 leads a month. How do you take a lead and nurture it for 30 days and then roll a few months ahead, and all of a sudden you've got quite a bit of leads under your management there to really nurture. So, I think what we're talking about is really, really important, because staying with the customer, it's I always say there's 3 things that customers are really researching, and they're kind of through this emotional journey, and is what brand. We talked a lot about that before, Chris. It's amazing the amount of research that from some of your data, that customers actually are looking at brand first. But what brand, and what dealership, what's the place to buy or to shop or go visit, and the third one is really about time. What's the timing? And so I think what we're talking about is so important, because it's for some customers it's a quicker process, and for some it's about it could be a year later. It's about the relationship. It's really good.
Aaron, the stat we just pulled, so this is pretty interesting. So we do this email nurture, like I said, with 1,000 dealers. The dealers that were nurtured received an email follow-up, closed 50% higher than ones that didn't have a nurture strategy. So that tells you that's a significant stat, and we're going to bring that more next year after the year of findings. But 50% higher closing ratio when you have an email nurture strategy, right? I mean, I just bought a side-by-side from a dealer a few months ago, and he was the finance manager, the sales manager, and the product specialist all in one. He was so busy, luckily I knew exactly what I wanted. I'm an expert in the industry, so it was just a matter of setting the paperwork up and being done with it. But he was so busy. He had so many leads coming in. There's no way he could follow up with me unless I was following up with him. So how do we help these dealers back in with our solutions together to keep those customers engaged?
Right.
Yes, yes, big opportunity. And I think you said it, Chris. Again, whether this is automated, whether this is outsourced, or whether it's done inside by a person, whatever the case is, we're talking about frequency, we're talking about duration of staying in contact, but it's also the mix of not only platform, but content, right? If we're just sending messages, say, hey, we're still open. Okay, they know you're open. They can go online, they can see your hours, right? Are you sending them something to stimulate an emotion, something visceral there, right? Because we've said this before, most of the product that we're talking about, RV, marine, power sports, most people don't need these products, right? This is want-based product. And so we have to continue to inject emotion to these things, because logically there's no reason they need that. So the use of video, compelling things, invites, product specs, walkarounds, rides, dealer events, OEM footage, cool builds that you did. There's so many things we can do, because it's that one little piece that's going to trigger somebody to say, oh yeah, I'm excited about that again. We've got to do that. But I think the one takeaway on this one is we got to stay there longer, and we got to use resources that are available, because the consumer's going to stay there and they're going to want to buy, but we got to be there with them for a longer time.
Exactly right.
All right, so let's look at the next little piece of this, right? So this is where we're really talking about technology. Okay, so we've got technology evolving. This is where I'm going to really say omni-channel, right? We've talked about that. Are we using human? Are we using machine? Are we using automated? Are we doing it on all the different platforms? So you guys, Chris, very forward thinking with technology. And how do you is the consumer still, it seems like the consumer wants both.
Yeah, that's correct. So what we're seeing in this buying study too is we're seeing the consumers, just like you said earlier, John, they're going to the manufacturer website. They're shopping. 60 to 80% are staying in the manufacturer website. What Rollick is technology. We're pulling all the dealer inventory and post on the manufacturer website, right? This is so common in auto. In these industries, most OEMs all they have is request a brochure, right? Or submit a quote. They have no inventory. So Rollick is pulling all these OEMs and trying to get the dealer inventory on the website. So when the 60, 70% of the consumers are going there, how do we tie that to click on this inventory, submit a lead on the dealer website, right? How do we do that? Or have submit a lead to the OEM website, Rollick will route that to the dealer's CRM and be able to ask them to reply. And then how do we bring in generative AI at the same time? When a lead comes in, how do we grab that and then create a summary of that customer shopping behavior? Because we're tracking the customer going to the dealer website, going to the OEM website, how many sessions they're looking at, what they're doing in the back end. How does that dealership know that when they walk in the next morning and try to call customers? What if they had all the information in front of them? It just creates a better buying experience. You know the customer better, you know what they're looking for. So that first initial call or text is, hey, I know what you're looking for. How can I make you deliver this great buying experience for you and get you out in the trails or get you on the road as fast as possible?
And it just, if we think about this, myself, probably all of us as consumers, we go through this all the time, right? If I'm on a website and I raise my hand for something, right? I have a question, I want to do something. I'm in that moment right now. That's where my whole head and my heart, everything is right there. And if somebody gets back to me right now while I'm in that moment, I'm way more likely to engage in a conversation like that. But if you don't get for me an hour or 2 hours or 24 hours, I'm on to the next thing.
Too late, right? You're thinking about something else.
Too late. And it's, again, we got to get there first, and we got to get there best, and we got to stay there the longest. And again, I think it's the technology play is amazing on how this helps dealers, right? Again, if I'm a dealer, there's a few ways that you can try to solve this. You can staff and train for it internally. Okay. You can staff and train for it with a few less headcount and leverage great resources and technology. You can outsource some of these things. And I think our point here is regardless of which avenue or which combination of avenues the dealer wants to take, we need to have a fundamental understanding of the importance of this data and what the consumer wants.
That's right.
Yeah.
The data is showing here, this is what the consumer expects. So now how do we adapt as a dealership to which is the best model for me? Do I outsource it? Do I use a technology? What do I do? But you have to do it because no matter what, if you don't, we have to keep these customers engaged all the time. So we can't lose that opportunity.
No, that's a big piece right there. Yes. And there's a lot of ways to do it. That's a good thing. And that's a good and bad for a dealer, because if a dealer and I've only got one solution, I'm like, okay, I'm just going to go do that. But now you're like, okay, I see the situation. It's a big opportunity and I got this myriad of things I can do. Where do I start? It's like, okay, but better to have a lot of options than none at this point.
I think what's different about these industries for us is everybody's so collaborative. Like we were at MPDA, John, like all of the partner companies, everybody's working together, right? Even if we are some of our products, collaborate with each other, we work together because in the end, it makes our industry better, stronger, and more resilient long term.
Yeah.
And Chris, that's such a big point, right? And what these trade associations do is really for that. How do we move the sport, the community, the lifestyle, this segment? How do we continue to move it forward, right? So the OEMs got to continue to build compelling product, and they've got to continue to drive the messaging of, hey, this is a cool sport, this is a cool brand. Do that at the OEM level. Okay. And then the dealer needs to then start to try to win the battle of where does the consumer eventually go if they're so intrigued by what the OEM did. And if we do that seamlessly, again, we pull more people into this market, and that's good for everybody. Good for everybody. Yeah.
I think an important piece, guys, that you're talking about a lot here is about, and it was mentioned, is just having the right solution with technology and be able to not eliminate that human touch. And I think it's finding that blend for both, because we want to be able to, like I said, meet the customer where they're at, and we want to be able to, I think we think about I think what I'm trying to say is it's important as a dealer, I think, to not say, hey, you know what, I can just allow a human touch to fix this, or vice versa, and just allow technology to fix this, right? And just create like AI, for example, can't be the only solution to just
not at all.
Have automation. We're talking to real people. These are real customers with real lives, and they love this product. So together continue to find ways that dealers can leverage both, I think is important. And I talk a lot about this, this ADA funnel. And the ADA funnel is, about awareness, interest, desire, and action. And so a lot of things we're talking about, dealers work really hard, I think, today to create awareness of their dealership, their brand, their culture, the products they offer. And, what we're talking about a lot of times here is people are inquiring online. When they make that decision to fill out a form, a lead form and whatnot, for this example, what are we doing to create? There's obviously a level of interest. They've actually gotten to a point of inquiring. So a lot of what we're talking a bit about is, to simplify this, is strategies to raise the level of that desire. Because when the desire reaches a certain level, action takes place, an appointment, maybe a walk into the dealership, maybe a credit application, further interest into the digital space of the dealership. So, that's what we're talking about. And I think it's awesome. We got to continue to raise once we have awareness and we've got a level of interest, we've got to raise that desire and keep that alive with the customer.
Aaron, that's right. Consumers are smart. They can tell if it's an AI piece. They can tell if it's not real, right? They want to deal with real people on these real products. They want to deal with other enthusiasts that we all ride together, right? They can tell if it's a fake email or something like that. So we have to bring that human touch in and just leverage the technology. 400 leads a month, that's hard to manage. How do you figure out which customer is there today who I can help today, right? How do I summarize all their different interactions and bring it into one simple follow-up? That's how we have to do, is leverage technology just to make it more efficient for all of us, to make the dealership, more adaptable to technology, be able to apply quicker to that customer and help them.
Yeah.
And so Aaron, where you were going, good segue into this, right? Because assuming we've done this, okay, so the leads come in, we get that lead under management, we've actively engaged these customers over however much time, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 months, 5 months, wherever you want to plug that in, and we've using technology, we're using human pieces and so forth. This is some more data on the nurture program. And I think ultimately what we're trying to do with this whole thing is, depending on the product, new or used, OEM regulation, so forth, sometimes we can actually move to an entire transaction for a vehicle sale done virtually. Okay, if it's a used vehicle, we can do that. Some OEMs will allow it, some not. But short of just delivering everything through that process, we're really going to try to set an appointment, and we want to get that consumer back into to come into the dealership, right? So the value of showroom appointments, how we start to prepare, right, for the in-person side of this, the retail ready piece of it. And this one, Chris, maybe your take on this piece, because this spells out very clearly, again, the data doesn't lie. Let the data lead you. And
Correct.
this tells us, as people progress through the buying cycle, their inclination to come into the stores goes up and up and up.
Yeah, again, most of the customers, so we built our digital engagement tool on dealer websites, right? So allows the consumer to start the journey. So we can instead of just request a quote, one thing, and try to ask all information, the customer will give you, hey, I have a trade-in. I want to trade in this unit. Hey, I want to schedule an appointment. Click this button. Hey, I want to do a pre-qual. We have integration with 700 credit. Hey, I want to text only. We have integration with Connect. Hey, we do integration with JD Power. All these things, we're trying to capture our digital engagement tool online on their dealer website to create a super lead. That lead comes through, then at that point, once the lead is in, they can just set, the appointment's already set. When can they come in, right? When can we do it that way? So we're just trying to give the consumer the ability to do more of this online, and then create the relationship between the product specialist and the dealer, right? And the consumer. That's the goal of this, is leveraging how far they want to go down the funnel. If they want to go not that far, no problem. If they want to go all the way down, give them that opportunity. It's not going to hurt.
And I think what's key to that, and you've referenced it a couple times, right? The data within that lead, or within that file, or whatever, that golden record, if we want to call it that, right? If we've done a great job with engagement in the virtual space, okay, for however long it's taken, and whatever means we've used to do that, and we get to the point where that consumer is now ready for an appointment, right? Now I've got to move that information from that environment over to the product specialist and the sales manager on the floor to make an introduction, to create a new relationship that builds on the first relationship, and really prepare this to now be an in-person transaction that may come. So the ability to get all of that lead information, right, that's tied to that file, conversation histories, what's been sent, what's been said, so forth, to put a nice bow around that and deliver it to the sales manager or the product specialist is a huge piece of this.
That's exactly right. Yep.
Because go ahead, Aaron.
I think your data that you've got here, Chris, is really interesting. If we just look at the bottom line, so complete the transaction. Customers prefer to complete the transaction, including final pricing and terms. Yet power sports, 86% of customers, marine 80%, and RV 78%. So that's a big one for me, because I'm a rider. I've been in this industry. I was 18. I know how I got in this industry because I was, passionate about your riding, right? And so I love going to a dealership. I really do. I love going to a dealership. I love looking around. I love the smell of it. I love, I can't say the taste of it, but I can certainly say the smell of it. I love the sound of it. Who doesn't walk into a power sports? I'm talking about power sports a bit because that's more where I grew up. Marine is very same in RV. You walk in and it can be very exciting. And so I think that we're not losing that piece. I think that's an important piece to mention. Customers still want to come in and have an experience. We're not talking about transitioning to a Carvana here, where and not that's wrong or bad, but the amount of other data points you have above this, the things that customers do prefer to do online, tells a lot about the change in the way that customers shop. Yet, if we do things right, they are deciding where to go. So that's a positive piece of this.
Yeah, Aaron, you're exactly right. I mean, our data is consistently showing the last 7 years that consumers want to come in the store. They just want to limit all the pre-stuff up front. If they can do all that ahead of time and focus on the product, focus on the experience, that's what they want. If that can all be done up front on the website with the technology, let them do it. But they still want to have the face-to-face interaction at a dealership. They can buy parts, accessories. I mean, think about it. Side by side, I cannot go on the trail without a light bar, a winch, a roof, a windshield, side mirrors. I mean, all that is part of it. I got to go in and see my product specialist and get all those accessories. So we have to bring that online experience back into the dealership on a regular basis. It has to happen that way.
Yeah. Love that.
It's so interesting listening to you guys back and forth there, right? I still have a copy of it on my desktop, I believe, but the founder of Restoration Hardware wrote an article, right? He puts it in the holiday issue of the huge restoration book they send you every year. And this is probably 4 or 5 years ago now. And he basically was challenging the whole death of brick and mortar retail in that. And essentially it's like, look, we are experiential people as humans, right? That's a reason, the reason that everybody got so stir crazy during COVID is because we couldn't go have the experiences. You can't go out to eat. You can't go to the retail stores. You can't go to the movie. You can't go to the concert. You can't travel. You can't do any of those things. And we're not built that way, right? We want to go in. And part of his thing is like, look, that's why people still go to baseball games. That's why people still go to concerts in person. And his point is people still want to experience retail in person because it's tangible. There's something that's there. And so his article, and then our good friend Kevin Kelly, who's actually an architect, has written a book called Irreplaceable. And it's about the value of place, whatever you want place to be, to continue to bring people together, to convene, things like that. And so they want to do that. And we've got to be great. This is where the whole discussion is the battle for that floor traffic is increasingly fought online, right? Chris, your data's there. They're going to go to the OEM site. They're going to do these things. They're going to look at review sites. They're going to really start to work through, this is the brand. This is the segment that I want. Okay, now I got to figure out where I might go try to transact my business. So now we're in the location battle. All this is happening in the comfort of their home or from their work desk, which they like to do that sometimes too on the boss's time.
That's right. We see a lot of that.
A lot of that. Why are your leads coming in right here 11:30?
Yeah.
No. But we want to get there. The customers want to come in and have that. And if we can deliver that, right? You said it, Chris. They don't love some of the legwork required on these deals. Right? Consumers still do not like the buying process for negotiable price goods, which is what this stuff is. So if they can eliminate a lot of the stuff they don't like out of the way digitally where they feel more in control, great. Right. We can be good in that space and deliver something that really wows them when they come in. It's a great scenario.
Yeah, I think we're seeing that on the email nurture responses, right? What's my out the door price? What do I pay in freight, setup, dock fee? What are the incentives? We get constantly those questions asked in the email. Just let me know up front what it is. And if we empower that information, they're going to make a buying decision, but we got to give it to them up front. That's what they're expecting.
Right. Yeah, I think that's really powerful. I talked about that bottom line here of just the amount of people that this transaction does happen in the dealership. But it's really good if a dealer's listening to this and they're looking at 2025 and where to improve. I think every one of these areas that you've got in here, we look at, for example, build, personalize, and price product. 56% in power sports online, even way greater in marine and RV. You're up in 70%. This is a good scorecard for a dealer. You take a look at this and just, maybe because this is where the opportunities lie, and this is what we're talking about, and having solutions, having the right strategy. And it's almost like a scorecard to look at those areas there. How easy are you making it for the customer in those areas? Because those are some pretty staggering numbers. You look at some of these things. Applying or looking at the value of their trade. In RV, 66% of RV shoppers are wanting to know their trade online. So how well as we of a dealer are we making it easy for them to get that information through email, text, call, responsiveness, and so forth? So great scorecard here for a dealer.
Yeah, I mean, we that's why I said we're very collaborative. So we did it, like for example, for that, Aaron, we did it integration with JD Power, so the consumer on the dealer website can click, estimate a trade, and they can put all their credentials on the trade and get a range, just showing a range of what low to high is, and at least have that conversation. Otherwise, the consumer is going to go to NADA Retail, JD Power Retail, and see it on their own. So you might as well keep them engaged on your website and get that information to them quicker, just easier for them.
Yeah, that's awesome, Chris. We do something, I'll mention, as we help dealers with an outsourced BDC, is that one of the things that we are really, really diligent with is not every lead is the same, and so treating leads, personally treating leads so that going back to that personal touch with the customer, we see this a lot of times where somebody's inquiring about their trade value. And we'll through case studies, so we'll hear a response from a dealer that will be just aimed for the appointment. It's not about building value in what they ride or what they own and the experiences they've been on it. And so, it's one of those things, kind of understanding these key areas and where the customer's at. That's, I think, goes back to that omni-channel you talked about, John. It's about that different areas of communication and, being able to know where that customer's at, what they're inquiring on, and how to respond to that. And text and call, on our side, how we respond to customers is really, really important because, it's, again, we'll see it where a customer will inquire maybe on, one thing, and we're going a different direction. It's really important to meet that customer with the lead, the type of lead they filled out, the nature of that lead, and having a conversation about the information they provided. They provide a lot of information to us dealers when they fill these leads out, don't they?
Yeah, they're telling you exactly, like, I want to value my trade. Before I even come in your dealership, I at least want to know an estimate of what my trade is going to be worth. Just give me an estimate. I'm fine with that, but give me an estimate. Or, I just want to know what's the freight, setup dock fee, what are the taxes in my area. Just, they want to know up front. That's going to get them quicker to schedule the appointment and get to the store and create that in-person relationship.
Well, as I say, people kind of laugh and like, man, you're really excited when you do these podcasts, because I say that at the beginning. And one, I am excited to do them. And then at the end, you're like, wow, there's really a lot of good information that's here. Right? I think as long as we continue to push ahead with the same intent and same outcomes in mind, right? How do we continue to educate and support dealers, right, from training and technology and a resource standpoint to help keep them in step and on pace with the evolution of the consumer's expectations? I think that's what's important. So, Chris, really great stuff. If you had to give our listeners the number one piece of advice going into 2025, what would you tell them?
You have to have an email nurture strategy. We've proved it with over 1,000 dealers that are doing it from an OEM sponsor perspective. We do it for multiple OEMs. Dealers are doing a great job calling and texting, but that consumer is a year down the road. Have a strategy, have an email, set it and forget it. We build it for you. It's extremely inexpensive to have that. That catches multiple leads, multiple customers back to your dealership to purchase. You have to have an email nurture strategy. And I ask every dealer that I talk to, John and Aaron, what's your email nurture strategy? What do you have? 99% say no, I don't have one. They have a call and texting, but they're not having a follow-up email cadence. It's a lot of time to create an email to a customer that's specific and has an incentive, has all this information. So my number one thing is be ready for next year. Have an email nurture strategy long term. It's going to help your sales team. Set it and forget it. To keep it super, you never lose a customer again, right? They're always being followed up with, even up to a year in advance.
And I think
my number one thing.
That's a great, Chris, and that fits on everything. That's not just for prospects, right? We should have an email campaign strategy for current customers, for service customers, for parts customers, right? How do we keep the dealership and the sport and the lifestyle in front of consumers? Because the one thing that I honestly believe, one of these products that we're talking about, if it stays in the water or on a trailer or in a garage, it doesn't do anybody any good.
Yep.
Right.
They're not extracting any joy from it. They hate the fact that they have a payment and they're not using it. they're not part of the community. They're not doing service. They're not buying parts. They're not extracting the joy from the product that they intended when they got there. So we need to stay in front of them with reasons to use the product and enjoy the community that it represents. So excellent. Aaron Barney, I'll ask you the same question. 2025. What would you tell
2025,
dealers?
I think it's we as dealers, we always want to capture more leads. No doubt about it. We always want more leads. I think that's great. As I think having the right strategy to make sure you're looking at how you attract new prospects is important. But I think even more critical is what we talked about today. And that's about making sure whether you're a big dealer, when I say big or small, maybe it's your demographic, in your DAT and so forth. And as a dealer, having a nurture strategy, like you said, Chris, I 100% agree with you. And I think it is having resources, whether leveraging technology, because it helps you save time and it makes you very efficient, right? And having things kind of set it, forget it. Chris, we talk a lot about that in the past. Good friends, we talk a lot about that importance of set it, forget it. Very, very important. And also making sure that you have enough inside that dealership to nurture the customer. And if you don't, there's resources out there where you can outsource that. You can, have a bulletproof process in place to make sure you're texting and calling and responding to customers. But we talked a lot about how you win customers online first. The three of us have talked about this together. It's not the future. We're in it now. Your data does not lie. It shows and tells the reality that customers do more online and where their expectations are. Their expectations are rising when it comes to what their engagement is online. And that equals more floor traffic. Dealers in 25 want more floor traffic and more sales opportunities. And this is a big piece of it. So have a nurture strategy. I back you up on that one, Chris, 100%.
Yeah, 50% higher closing rate. You at least have a nurture. You're going to close 50% higher. We have the data to prove it. So you might as well do it for as inexpensive as it is.
That's right.
It's good. Great. Well, gentlemen, it has been a treat. Chris, thank you for taking the time. I know you're busy. I know you're off the road. I'm envious about your side-by-side afternoons that you're about ready to have here. So enjoy that. Right. Again, appreciate it. For anybody that's out there, you can find us, Lead Helm. You can find Rollick. We are here to help, either directly or indirectly, just to help capitalize on this opportunity and stay on pace with what the consumers are wanting right now.
And John, real quick, just AIM Expo's coming at February. Yeah. We have the digital tech hub we put together. You guys are in it with us. So we have all the technology companies together in one spot, AIM Expo. Call out to Bob Lettuce at 700 Credit, Cinnamon. We have everybody together. We can spend a couple days, hours in our tech hub and learn all about our companies together. Right? I think that's huge for us. The first time to do this in an industry together.
Yeah, I'm glad you made that call out. I was actually spent some time looking at the map and the tech hub and starting to get excited about check-in days and all that stuff. So my mind's already in that space. So if I don't see you before then, have a wonderful holiday time. We'll see you in Vegas. And Aaron, thank you. I'll see you later today. And Chris, thanks again for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.